G'day, I'm Paul. Are you after a dual cab ute that's going to put some hair on your chest? I've got the one for you. It is this here. Look how big it is. I love it. This is the Chevy Silverado 2500 HD. HD stands for heavy duty, and it is the Z71 or the Z71 spec, which is what we get here in Australia in LTZ trim. So it is schmicko. Now, how much is this going to set you back? Well, it's $160 or just over $160,000. If that's too expensive, well, bad luck, because you haven't really got many other options in terms of what this is capable of doing. Now, this is available in two specs, one for a car license and one for a truck license. And I'll run you through those differences a little bit later on. This competes with things like the Ram 2500 and also the Isuzu N-Series truck that we reviewed recently as well. It's sort of capable of doing similar things to this. Not off-road, but definitely on-road. So today we're going to do a detailed review of this car, plus a little bit of light off-roading. If you do want to skip ahead to other parts of this review, you can use the time codes that are on the screen, or if you're on YouTube, you can scroll down and use the chapters below. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon as well. And do you need something to put some hair on your chest? Well, have I got a deal for you? Well, actually, I have a page full of them. All you need to do is go to Google, type in Help Me CarExpert, or use the QR code on the screen. It's going to take you to the CarExpert website. We're a big company. It's like over 60 full-time employees. Very impressive. We also have a page on the site with all of the deals going in Australia this month to help you figure out which car you need to pick. We can then even put you in touch with one of our friendly dealers who might even be able to get you a better deal as well. So go to Google, type in Help Me CarExpert, or whip your phone out, scan the QR code, and away you go. Now let's talk about design. So optional colors, 1250. I like this color here. Same color as my Raptor, and everyone on the internet always goes, oh, when are they going to finish painting it? Well, this is the finished color and I like it. Okay, so giant grille and then an air intake up the top, which looks to be real as well. Now, it needs an air intake because this is a monster of an engine, and our mates over at TFL Truck, they basically do a lot of tow testing up some incredible mountains in Colorado. And I'll tell you what, when they load one of these up to capacity, they tend to use a fair bit of fuel, but also they tend to generate a lot of heat. So this requires a whole lot of cooling if you are going to be using this vehicle to its limits. And I'll run you through what those limits are in a second. Now, in terms of what has changed here, so the Silverado range has been updated, and that means a much better interior with the latest infotainment. That was probably my biggest bugbear with the previous generation of this. This is definitely right up there now in terms of all the equipment that you get as standard. Like this as well, that's like a steel bumper down there. It's not a plastic setup. All of this stuff is plastic though for pedestrian impact protection, I guess. Not that you'd want to meet one of these as a pedestrian. LED headlights, which is good news. And then you have the LED daytime running light there as well. Around the side here, set of 20-inch alloy wheels, comes standard with all terrains. This is, the Z71 is the off-road version. And this also has the Rancho twin tube suspension as well, which is designed for better performance off-road. So we'll test that out today when we do a bit of light off-roading. A bit of wheel arch protection there. Old school aerial. Big wing mirrors here with side indicator lights as well because of the width of the vehicle. I mentioned before this comes in MB1 and MB2 specifications. MB1 is just under 4,500 kilos GVM, which means you can drive this on a car license. Downside to that is it only has around 700-ish kilos of payload, and that is because if you're over 4.5 tons, you have to have a truck license. But if you do have a truck license, you can basically get the upgraded GVM version, which gives you a payload closer to 1,400 kilos, and it also increases towing capacity from 3,500 in the MB1 to 4,500 in the MB2 with a 70mm ball on the rear. So they really have catered for everyone that needs to buy one of these. If you do want one for towing and for load hauling, you can simply get a truck license and then it covers all of those bases. 2500 HD stands for heavy duty. That's on the side there. You've got giant rock sliders over here as well. So good for off-roading and also good for climbing into the cab. Privacy glass, and then this, you've got a step to retrieve things from the tray because the tray is never ending, and so is the car. It's over 6 meters in length. So it is a whopper of a vehicle and pretty wide as well. And it can get wider with the wing mirrors too. They actually extend. So they have covered all of the bases here. You've got rear disc brakes under there. You've got leaf sprung suspension, and you can see that damper, the red damper behind there as well. Side step over here too for retrieving things from the front of your tray. or the back of the tray, depending on which way you're looking at it. Come around to the back with me. Now around the back, partial LED taillights, LTZ badge for the spec that we have here. You've got another stepper if you want to retrieve things. You have trailer connections in here as well. Then in addition to that, you've got a camera, LED light, and then if you do want access to the tray, it is automatic. Have a look at that. Luxury. Now, I'll open the roller shutter as well. Fairly slow, but it is a big tray, I guess. You've got a spray-in bed liner, and then in terms of the tray dimensions, it's just under 2.1 meters long. You've got 1800 mil of width with just over 1300 mil between the wheel arches, and it is 530 mil deep. So it is a fairly decent setup there, and it gives you everything that you need. You've got LED lights off to the side there to light everything up. You've got a litany of hooks as well if you do need to tie stuff down. No power outlets though, which is a little bit disappointing, I reckon. I would have liked to see some power available in here just to connect things up. But anyway, that's probably something you can sort out in terms of aftermarket as well. Then once you've done gas bagging here as well, you can just press that button to close that again. And then one more button push here to close that as well. So these are converted, by the way, to right-hand drive in Australia. They come to Australia as left-hand drive, and then they're basically converted to right-hand drive so you can legally drive them on Australian roads. So let me know in the comments section below, what do you reckon about the Silverado 2500 HD? You reckon it's big enough to get the job done? Let me know what you reckon in the comments section below. So we are inside the Silverado 2500. We'll start off with the key. You've got lock, unlock, remote start, button there for the tray, panic button, and then a Chevrolet logo on the back of the key. Proximity sensing key. Once you're inside, you've got a push button start just here. So I mentioned before, this comes to Australia left-hand drive, and then all of the conversion work is done here in Australia. Got to say, it is such a good conversion job. They've been doing it sort of long enough now to actually understand how to do it properly. And to be honest, it is very hard for me to actually see which parts of this have been engineered here in Australia to work with this and which parts are standard. It all just looks very native and fits in perfectly. So big tick to them for that. And you do pay a premium. This is a whole lot more expensive than what you would pay in the States for the same vehicle, but a whole lot of work actually goes into making this work. And looking at how much trouble Ford has gone through with the F-150, it's had a litany of recalls now. You know, just pays to go with a company that knows what they're doing, I guess. So in terms of everything else, what does it look like? So you've got this sort of faux wood grain. It is nicely presented. We've got the big screens now. Really is just a vehicle that's now been complemented by tech as well. In terms of your touch points, soft there, soft on the door as well. How soft are they? We've got our durometer, tested the main surfaces in this cabin. If you do want to see how this car compares to others that we've tested before, have a look at the link in the description below. Now, build quality. What is it like? It all sort of feels pretty good. All this stuff feels really nice and solid. This is what the door slam sounds like. Annoying beeps. So let's talk infotainment. So your main screen is 13.4 inches in size. Nice big sharp display. You've got wireless smartphone mirroring with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That's what Apple CarPlay looks like. Randomly, it only takes up that part of the screen, only sort of 3/4 of it. You can't sort of make it full screen for some reason, so that is a weird one. In fact, over in the States, GM is doing some weird stuff. They're like going away from Apple CarPlay. So yeah, anyway, strange. Outside of that, you've also got Android Auto. Both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are wireless, but randomly Android Auto is full screen, whereas Apple CarPlay is not. So that is definitely a weird one. Outside of that, you should have stuff like inbuilt satellite navigation, but with a lot of these American vehicles that are converted here in Australia, they don't come with inbuilt satellite navigation for some reason. So it's just one of those weird things. They also don't come with digital radio either, so you only have AM and FM plus audio that is sort of plumbed through your phone. So that is a bit of a weird one. But it is all plumbed through a 7-speaker Bose branded sound system. In terms of the other features you've got here on the infotainment system, you've got the trailering menu. So this allows you to do light testing. You've got a checklist to go through. You've got cameras. Now the cameras are interesting because they allow you to look at some fascinating views here. So you've got your front and rears, but you've got a tow ball view, and this is probably one of my favorites, a view of what is in your tray. And if I get our key here and just open up the tray, it just gives you an idea of whether things are moving around. The amount of times I've towed stuff and also had things in my tray while it's been windy and haven't had a cover, This is just a really good way to just make sure nothing is going to fly out onto the road and then annoy other drivers. So very impressed with that, and I wish more utes had that feature just there. Outside of that, the rest is pretty straightforward. There isn't a great deal more you can do with this outside of those obvious things. Ahead of the driver, you've got another display, 12.3 inches in size. This one is also pretty straightforward. You can customize what is displayed in the center of the screen there, but outside of that, it just gives you the critical information that you need to see. Now, on the safety front, you've got autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection. You have an auto-dimming rear vision mirror, but it also has a digital mirror built into there as well. So it gives you the ability to look out the back, even if you have things in your tray. So that is a handy feature to have. Home link here for garage door opener. You've also got the ability to open and close your window back there as well. You've got blind spot monitoring built into the wing mirror. You have radar cruise control. You have rear cross traffic alert and a 360 camera. I'll show you what the camera looks like. So there it is there. You've got a litany of different angles. I know I've already sort of run you through some of these, but you can see the quality of the camera is actually really impressive. So they've done a good job with making sure that all of that stuff is nice and visible. And this is what the horn sounds like. So practicality, let's start off with your connectivity. You've got a wireless phone charger here, USB-C outlet, USB-A outlet. Strangely, there is no 12 volt outlet, and part of the reason is they have a 120 volt outlet fitted to this car in the States. Australia has weird rules when it comes to power in vehicles, and it needs to be not 120 volts, so that obviously isn't a solution they've sorted for the Australian market, so you're going to have to get a USB to 12 volt converter if you do need that. You've got another USB-C outlet and a USB-A outlet up the top there as well. In terms of storing your stuff, so you've got room for bottles here. You've got these sort of rubber teeth to hold them in place, which is good news. Storage inside the doors as well. And this fits American-sized drink bottles as well, so you are in luck there. You've got litany of storage here. This whole center console, center tray console thing comes out, and then you've got a deep storage slot in there as well. You've got plenty of room for that. You've got storage here next to the driver's leg. Storage here next to the passenger side. You've got a really generously sized glove box there, and then a top glove box as well. They really have thought of everything. Actually, no, they haven't. There is no sunglasses holder. And comfort. So big old seats for the big old blokes that are driving these, or gals. You've got electric seat adjustments. You can go forwards or backwards. Your backrest can go forwards, backwards. You can lift the front of the seat, the back of the seat. You can also adjust your lumbar support. In addition to that, your passenger seat is electrically adjustable as well. Very comfy place to be seated. You have dual zone automatic climate control up the front here, heated and cooled seats. You can even split the zoning of your seat heating there as well. You have a heated steering wheel too. Steering offers both tilt and reach adjustment. It's worth calling out as well here, a couple of the extra buttons. You've got trailer brake controller here, so integrated into the dashboard. You've also got an exhaust brake up the top here as well. Now, second row, this is my favorite part about these Yank tanks. So bottom of the seat comes up, and then once it lifts up, you can put accessories in like this, where you've just got oodles of storage. Then you can drop that down. You've also got storage here behind your second row as well. I'll show you what that looks like on that side. There you go. You've got top tether points, you have ISOFIX points, center armrest here with cup holders. Look at the room. I have so much room. The knee room is great. Toe room is great, headroom is excellent. This is the place to be seated. Heated seats for your two outboard seats, USB-C and A, your own air vents there as well. A couple of cup holders, and then you have mat pockets as well. Does the window go down all the way? Let's find out. That's auto. Oh, look at that. They have thought of everything. Just auto down. Okay, so we've just hit the road in the Silverado 2500 HD. This is a big old bus. It is taking up a lot of room here, but surprisingly, it doesn't feel gargantuan. And I think once you spend a bit more time behind the wheel of it, it just feels pretty sort of relaxing to drive. Same goes for the suspension. For such a big vehicle, it actually doesn't feel overly firm or too firmly sprung, which is what you can find with vehicles that are built to cater for big loads. So it's actually not a bad thing if you have to duck into the city for any reason, hit cobblestones, speed humps, all that kind of stuff. Now, powering this is a whopper of an engine, 6.6 litre, turbocharged V8 diesel. Doesn't get much better than that. 350 kilowatts of power, just over 1,300 Newton meters of torque. And that all goes through a 10-speed Allison automatic transmission. So you have this gear selector here. It's a column shifter, but you have the ability to manually whip through the gears as required. So that's all sort of pretty straightforward to use. Now, what does that feel like behind the wheel? You've got a few different sort of driving modes here for on-road driving. You've got two-wheel drive and auto. In two-wheel drive, it's obviously just rear-wheel drive, but in auto, it's able to basically engage the front axle if required. But if you sink the slipper in, it gives you a nice big kick in the back, plumes of smoke out the rear, out of that massive exhaust, and then away it goes. There is no speed where this feels like it has a shortage of power or torque. It is monstrous. You can just imagine if you are towing 4.5 tons with a 70mm ball on this, and then you've also got weight in the tray as well, this is going to be working hard. You find yourself on a big hill, loaded full of passengers as well. It is going to be absolutely working, and this engine is built for exactly that. Now, it does mean that it does use a fair bit of fuel. So I did go for a bit of a drive earlier today around the track here. So we're up to 19.4 litres per 100 Ks, but I was seeing a figure there of around 16. So yeah, be prepared to be paying a fair bit for fuel because it is not only heavy, but pretty thirsty as well. There is no official fuel economy figure. With these bigger vehicles that sort of fall into that truck category, they tend to not quote fuel economy. So this is just what we've observed with actual testing. Now, what does it feel like in terms of ride when the speed picks up? You're going to be driving this most likely in and around country areas, regional Australia. Let's see what it's like on our sine wave at 130, which is just a good indication of what body control and ride quality is like. So there's 130. Yeah, look, it is a little bit bouncy, but it's not the end of the world. So bigger vehicles like this, especially with that off-road tuned suspension, tend to be a little bouncy, but it's nowhere near as bad as the worst dual cab utes we've seen here. So they've done a good job there in terms of getting that ride calibration right. Okay, now, terrible road here. We do this at 90 Ks an hour. Gives us a good indication of what the suspension's like and what it's like over our condensed sine wave here as well. Here comes the condensed sine wave. Wow. That is terrible. The mirrors look like they're about to fall off. They were shaking so much. I reckon if I extended those mirrors and increased the moment, which is like your engineering calculation on the amount of force you're applying, they might come off. I'm not going to say they will, but they might come off. They were shaking so much, and that was 90 Ks an hour on a corrugation. If you are going to be driving this off-road, this is the off-road package they have fitted to this vehicle. That is just not great. So that's probably something they need to have a look at, or perhaps it is engineered to bounce around that much. I don't know, but yeah, that was interesting. Now, what about your drive modes? You just have normal and off-road, but let's go for a little fang around the track here. Obviously, nobody is going to be driving it like this, but we test all the cars back to back just to see exactly how they feel in the same way. You know what? It has has a degree of body roll there, but it's all actually pretty predictable. It feels yeah, it's a bit of lashback through the steering column there. Basically, when you are coming through one of these corners and you get a little bump mid-corner, you do feel the steering rack tightening up significantly, yeah, just there, and that can be a little bit unnerving. I'm not sure if that's a characteristic of the standard car or if that's something that's been brought in as part of the engineering process. Obviously, you aren't going to be driving like this ever really, but it is one of those things that could affect you off-road if you do hit a bump mid-corner when you are travelling fast. Let's give it a punch up the back here, see what it feels like. I have a feeling this is actually speed limited as well. Hey, there it is, 160. So, yeah, look, I mean, it's not going to win any handling awards, but, you know, does the job. Just that steering kickback mid-corner I'm not a fan of. In terms of low speed maneuvering and stuff, steering feels fine. It's got a bit of sort of deadness about centre there. Keep in mind that this has been converted for the Australian market to right-hand drive, and it all sort of looks and feels fine here. Now let's talk road noise. It's actually surprisingly quiet, despite the fact you're on all-terrains that make a little bit of noise in the cabin. It is a pretty quiet place to be seated. This is how it went up against our calibrated sound meter. Now the handling is surprising because this weighs well over 3,000 kilos. So for a vehicle that size to handle like this, I usually think it's a pretty impressive effort. Now, what about your visibility? So you are sitting pretty high up. You can see the front part of the bonnet there where the scoop is. The wing mirrors are enormous, so you've got great visibility down the side. You've got not only a digital camera for the rear, but you can just go to a normal camera as well to look out the back. You really do have a litany of features here to keep visibility on the road pretty good. Now, yes, it does use a fair bit of fuel, but it has pretty big fuel tanks, so it's around 140 litres, so you're going to get that extra range there despite it using a bit of fuel. Big turning circle though, 16 metres and a bit, so you're going to need a fair bit of space there to turn this thing around. Okie dokie, let's do some performance testing. This will be interesting. Let's see how long it takes this lumbering mass to get to 100 k's an hour. So I'll actually go all the way through to 120 so we can see our overtaking speed as well. I'm going to turn off traction control, leave it in two-wheel drive to start with, and yeah, let's see. Let's see what happens. I'll switch stability control off as well, just in case it gets a little bit sideways off the line there. Okay, here we go. Build up a little bit of boost. Nice. A little bit of wheel slip off the line there. There's 100. And there's 120. Okie dokie. Let's see how that went. So, 0 to 100 in 7.78 seconds. For something this size, that is ridiculous. 80 to 120, 4.79 seconds. So it has got some absolute meat under the bonnet there. All right, that is good news. We'll go back now and we'll try it in four-wheel drive auto just to see how that goes. Now, one question you're probably asking, and I can completely understand if you are asking this, can it do a burnout? Let's have a little look, just because, you know, science. I just want to see whether 1,300 Newton meters can do a burnout. So here we go. You'll be pleased to know that, yes, it can do a burnout. This thing is unreal. Okay, that is enough of that. Enough of that silliness. Let's go and actually see how quick we can get this going to 100 now in the auto mode. So here we go. Okie dokie. So I found with the Silverado 1500, it was quickest to just stand on the throttle. So I'm going to give that a shot and see how that goes. We won't build up any boost. That is naturally aspirated. So if it's not that good, we can come back and do it again, but let's give that a shot. So here we go. Not too bad. Alrighty. There's 100. And 120. To a stop. Okie dokie. So 0 to 100 in 7.65 seconds. So marginally quicker than doing two-wheel drive. 80 to 120, 4.96 seconds. Slightly slower. Yeah, which is interesting. Alrighty, let's go back and let's do a stop from 100 k's an hour. This should be interesting. Okie dokie, let's get this up to 100 k's an hour. Not a problem. Okay, here we go. Stopping from 100. Oh. So 100 to 0, 3.17 seconds, 43 meters. I mean, for something this size, that is remarkably good. I was expecting this to be significantly worse. So that is It's quite impressive. All right, and the moment you've been waiting for, how quick does it go in reverse? Here we go. 38 kilometres an hour. Okay, time to do a little bit of light off-roading. So let me run you through the specs first. You have rear-wheel drive, automatic four-wheel drive high range, four-wheel drive low range. You do have a rear diff lock, but it's one of those torque slip sensing diff locks, which I'm not a huge fan of because they wait for a delta in rotation between the wheels on the rear axle and then the rear diff lock engages. I find them to be unpredictable and you don't really have a great deal of control over it. So I would just like a switch that allows you to do that. But anyway, you've got hill descent control as well. In terms of the actual four-wheel drive specs, you have an approach angle of almost 30 degrees, and that's the angle of the face you can approach before you hit the front of the car, and then a departure angle of 23.6 degrees, which is the same but in reverse. And then ground clearance is just over 250 mils, so pretty impressive specs. What we're going to do, we're going to go over our course first in two-wheel drive high range to see how well the traction control system works. I will switch this over to off-road mode, so you can see that activated just over there. So that will vary traction control so that it better handles this scenario. So we'll try two-wheel drive and then we'll flicker over to four-wheel drive and see exactly how we go. Okay, so it'll be interesting to see how this goes with the wheelbase because it is enormous compared to our regular four-wheel drives. I'm going to pop one of these cameras on so I can see where I'm going. And we might not cock a rear wheel up there, but we'll see what happens. So this test is designed to get that rear wheel off the ground so that we can simulate a traction loss situation. Okay, so there it is there. So this is kind of a pointless test in this vehicle because the rear diff lock has already engaged. So even with that wheel now sort of a little bit off the ground, the rear diff lock is already on. So we aren't really testing the limits of the system because technically has the rear diff lock. So kind of pointless test there, but what we'll do is we'll whip around now and try going back over our obstacle, the offset mogul, in four-wheel drive high range, and we'll see how well that works. So pop that over to four-wheel drive high range. It's engaging now, there it is. Okay, here we go. Okie dokie, so drop it into this little hole first. Oh, I've got to fill that hole. It just feels like it's going to roll over constantly. And then we get the wheel over here. Again, the wheelbase is kind of limiting our ability to even test this properly because all the wheels have traction. So there we go. I've dropped that rear wheel in now to that hole. So we have one wheel technically without traction, but there we go. It just locks the rear diff and gives us a shunt. So yeah, look, it does well, but unfortunately, this isn't really a great test of it because the wheelbase just allows it to always have traction. So anyway, looks like a pass. I'm confident that it would do well regardless if it didn't have that wheelbase, but just something worth pointing out. Okay, so hill time. We do this in four-wheel drive low range. So to engage that, you press four-wheel drive low range, you got to flick it over to neutral. That engages. And then we are good to go, still engaging. All right, there it is. So what we do here, I basically drive up this hill with constant throttle just to see if it'll get up there. Then what we do is we come back to this hill and then I try stopping to see what the hill hold function is like and then accelerating away to see how well it does with traction. So let's see what happens. This seems to have dried out a fair bit, so it should be okay up here. So constant throttle. Yeah, piece of cake. We'll see what the breakover angle is like. It's kind of bottoming out there. All right, we've got our little mud puddle here as well. Here we go. Piece of cake, very nice. Now, hill descent control. I'm going to pop my camera on so I can see over the crest there. Then what I'm also going to do is press that button, which is our hill descent control. I'm going to come up to the top of the hill. Come to a stop, and then I'll just let go of the brake, and we'll see how that goes. Let's see how this goes. Cool, I can adjust speed using the cruise control as well, all the way from crawling through to that sort of speed there. So yeah, cool. Not a bad setup there and a pretty straightforward system to engage and operate, which is good. Okay, take 2 on our hill. This time, I'm going to come up here and come to a stop. There's a bit of mud in our tyres there, but we'll see how it performs and we'll see whether it has a hill holding function here as well. So, get up to about there. So, foot on the brake, and I'll just let go of the brake. Yeah, it's not really holding it that well, that's right. And then onto the throttle. Yeah, getting up here, piece of cake. Look, it helps when you have that much weight on the tyres. You're basically pushing down on the tyres with a stack of weight, and then you've got heaps of torque to work with as well, and then knobbly tyres like that. So it all comes together nicely to give you the traction that you need, which some of the lighter sort of standard dual cab utes really don't have. Now, rock time, 250 mil of ground clearance is going to be more than enough for this, but let's see how comfortable it is. Normally with these rocks, I ride the brake with the throttle, just to see, or just to get better control over the speed. Yeah, this is a walk in the park, no dramas at all, and very comfortable as well. Actually feels like you can probably do double or triple the speed over these rocks without any dramas. It is well and truly built for this. Very nice. Beautiful. All right, so that is some light off-roading in the 2500 Silverado. Look, I don't think it's really built for this, but in saying that, it actually performed pretty well. So quite impressive. I would just love to see a switch there for the rear diff lock. Just give me that little bit more control over it, but the rest is very straightforward and very easy to use. So, Silverado HD, the 2500. This is absolutely unreal. This is my type of vehicle. It is just so cool. It tows, it can carry payload if you want it to. It has an amazing interior. It has so much grunt from that engine. It'll go anywhere. Like, it is the ultimate vehicle for someone that needs a vehicle that does virtually everything and can carry people in comfort as well. So it is expensive. You're going to be paying a fair bit of money for it, but ultimately there are very few other vehicles on the road that are this versatile. Look, in terms of negatives, the only stuff I could pick up was those wing mirrors on the bouncy section were just kind of all over the place, and the steering as well. The rack rattle and the sort of lashback you get when you hit bumps mid-corner wasn't great. So hopefully that's something they're able to fix, because they are responsible for that stuff here in Australia. So hopefully that is something they can work on for an update to this vehicle. Question to you though is, do you want us to do a tow test? Do you want us to go stick 4500 in it? Load it up to GVM. Let me know in the comments section below and we can organise something like that to see exactly what it's like. Do you want us to test the Ram 2500 as well? Because we'll have to get that in too to see how that performs. But yeah, I'm seriously impressed with that. Now, let me know, have you bought one of these? Are you in the market for one of these? Do you need to tow something enormous? This could be the vehicle for you. Let me know in the comments section below. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like it and you share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. But until next time, take it easy.